Fox College football analyst Joel Klatt is presented each week by MyBookie.ag. Use code NEXTROUND to double your initial deposit. That's MyBookie.ag, code NEXTROUND. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag, code NEXTROUND. All right, Joel Klatt is with us, college football on Fox, and the Joel Klatt Show as well. He joins us each week, courtesy of MyBookie.ag, code NEXTROUND. When you sign on to MyBookie.ag, you can double your initial deposit with code NEXTROUND. They just double whatever you put in there. MyBookie.ag, bet anything, anytime, anywhere. What is up, Joel Klatt? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? What's going on?
Just trying to survive the SEC road games.
That's
man.
right. So Klatt and I were texting about how tough it is to go on the road and win.
It is.
It is. I mean, by the way, did you guys know? And like, there's a reason everybody across the country struggles in early October on the road, and it's because there's reasons for this. Did you know there was only 15 power conference, non-conference games between each other? So when you look at it, like the overwhelming majority of these teams don't go on the road early in the season and play a game against similar talent or at least conference level talent. And so when they do it in October, it's a shock to their system. I think the games that they play on the road in September are generally games that they can focus on the entire offseason, and they're healthier. And so like this is why this happens every single year. And I was just thinking about that, and it's like teams just don't play on the road anymore. There's several teams in power conference football that are playing like 5 total road games, or like Notre Dame's going on true road games like twice in the entire season, at A&M and then at USC to end the year. So that's why this happens.
Although accurate, parity may be the most overused word in all of the NFL, but that's where we are in college football. And now that just the way everything is with the transfer portal and the NIL, when we've got 5 unranked teams beating 5 top 25s this weekend, it should have been 6 with Cal over Miami.
Yeah,
are we really to a point? We just had Tyler Booker on from Alabama, and he's like, on any given Saturday, and now we're hearing that more and more. I never thought we'd live in a world where a team could be up 28 on Georgia and the very next week lose to Vanderbilt. So is this a point we're at right now in college football where we should really expect this year in, year out?
Okay, so let's take two different points on this. One is a human point, which is it's very difficult to grow without failure, right? Like failure is the driver of growth. And I mean, even if you're working out in the weight room, like you've got to do sets to failure in order to get stronger. If you just sit there and you do the same sets. So what you see is in a football season, these programs, and some of them have great coach. Clark Lee is a great example. Vanderbilt got beat by Georgia State. So they went back and strained. Can you imagine how difficult those practices were and meetings were, and how many coaching points and teaching points there were in those meetings? And you've got the full attention of your team. Why? Because they failed. Okay, so they're growing through that. And then you've got these other teams that win. So even their mistakes, they kind of brush off, and they're like going into the weight room and doing the exact same weight for the exact same amount of reps, and they don't grow at the pace that some of these teams that fail grow, in particular early in the season. And then you have to step back and be like, okay, so every team has a bell curve of performance. Now, very rarely are they going to play at their absolute worst, and very rarely are they going to play at their absolute best. It generally doesn't happen. And the overwhelming majority of performances happen in the middle of that bell curve. And listen, Bama's bell curve and Vandy's bell curve are miles apart. But guys, there is a spot where they cross. There is a spot at the top end of Vandy and at the low end of Alabama. So when you've got a team that's growing and straining from a human standpoint to get better and to do their best, and they have this incredible game plan, and you've got another team that has, I think, turned a blind eye to what are clear deficiencies, in particular on defense. Now they play at the bottom end of their bell curve, and guess what? You get a point where they intersect. And so to your point about parity, every team is going to intersect on their bell curve with their opponent. It's just a matter of, can you place yourself on a different spot, in particular if you're the better team. And Alabama didn't. Alabama played awful, guys.
Yes.
The film is gross on defense. And I've been saying this since the South Florida game to you guys. The defense is a problem. Now, South Florida didn't take advantage. Wisconsin's stuff there didn't take advantage. Georgia finally did take advantage. And then Vandy just absolutely beat them up, owned Alabama. 42 minutes time of possession for Vanderbilt? That's stunningly bad, guys. They were 12 of 18 on third down. And the last possession to have Vanderbilt just into the game with the ball was stunning. You should have seen the lack of leverage, gap control, discipline on defense. The structures were bad. The game plan was bad. It was stunningly bad from Alabama.
I rewatched the game on Sunday morning. I don't get the high 22s and all the fancy stuff you do, but I literally watched it on my YouTube TV on this very iPad so I could sit on my couch and drop it a couple of times just so I could be Joel Klatt.
Isn't it a bit therapeutic?
It is.
Do you guys hear my dog, by the way? My dog's going crazy right now.
It's such a good Shure microphone,
okay,
can't hear it. Yes.
Okay, good.
I think I've asked you this 4 times now, so I'm going to ask for a fifth. Is the WOMAC scheme, is it okay
Yes.
and they're just not executing it, or is it a problem?
No, there's a problem. Structurally, there's a problem. So they're kind of stuck between trying to play an even front and an odd front at times. And I don't think that you can be good at both. Now, you can have the ability to get into both, but it's hard to be good at both. So there are times when they get into kind of that 3-3 stack. You guys know what I'm talking about? And they kind of have that that sniffer player, the linebacker that's kind of a sniffer player. And then there are times when they get into more of an even front with 4 defensive linemen and they stand up the edges. And the problem when they get into the 3-3 stack is that their edges, there's no edge player. And so they don't set the edge, and they're very susceptible to perimeter runs. And then the problem when they stand their edges up to create harder edges is that they're not good enough right down the middle. And then you get into this, what I think is an issue of getting in between those structures, is that they're not very sound as far as their gap responsibility at the second level. There were so many times in that game when it's zone read, whether it's like you've got zone read with an option or you've got a shovel underneath, and you've got the defense where there's 2 and 3 players running with 1 player. So like 2 or 3 guys will all take the quarterback, and then the shovel is wide open. Then all of a sudden you've got like a regular zone read and 2 players run with the back, and the Q power in the middle is wide open, or they collapse and 2 guys take, and I'm like, guys, the undisciplined nature of their responsibilities jumps off the tape, and that has to stop. And credit Vanderbilt, because their game plan was creative. They were doing a lot of things from a misdirection standpoint, and it was difficult on Alabama. So yes, I don't love the structure, this bounce between odd and even defense, and more in particular, I don't love their undisciplined nature in terms of responsibilities. When you're going to face a team like Vanderbilt that's going to be in the zone read game, it's like facing an option team. You've got to have a running back player, you've got to have a quarterback player, and you have to have the third option player, whether it's a pitch man or a tight end into the flat. Just go for a case study, go watch Tennessee play OU. They were brilliant at this. One guy taking one each player and just totally snuffed out that RPO style system. Bama was completely undisciplined. Then you get into the passing game, and I don't like their fundamentals on the outside. Their corners don't play well in man coverage. There's far too much separation, and they don't deal with pick plays when they're in man coverage very well. A lot of times what I saw is that they weren't creating levels in pick situations. So as a defensive secondary, if you're going to get a pick situation, and this happens several times, the defenders cannot be at the same level, or else the picks will have more consequence. Like, you're helping them out. It's like basketball. All of us played basketball, and like, if you're the guy who is defending the player that is setting the screen, you don't go and like stay right with him, and set a double screen. You have to either give space for your guy to get underneath, or you trail and you go over the top. Like there's ways. So you have to create levels, and Alabama didn't do that, and paid the price in some situations where Vandy was able to throw the football. So I'm not a huge fan of the structure, but more so, I'm not a real fan right now of what they're doing fundamentally. They played with poor leverage. Their helmets were all higher than the Vanderbilt guys, in particular at linebacker. They were catching blocks in their chest. They were catching blocks 2 and 3 yards down the field rather than meeting some of the pullers at the line of scrimmage. I know it's a long dissertation, but like, guys, it was really bad. And right now, and this is when, like, I'm gonna feel like Stephen in front of the Sanhedrin, like you guys are gonna rip your garments and gnash your teeth. This Bama team is just another version of the Lincoln Riley OU teams. Like, incredible explosive offense, and they're gonna be in shootouts the rest of the way. And I told you that after the South Florida game. And like that's what they are. That we've had now 4 straight games of this. Like, to think that it's all of a sudden going to get better. Yeah, there you are. See, like this is just Alabama right now is just a Big 12 team from 2017.
There has been a lot said on this show today.
Hey, with
that one
said,
probably had to hurt the most.
But hey, Klatt,
but at least, guys, at least I have I explained all of that before to tell you, like, that's the case. If they're going to play defense like that, then this is what's going to happen. What do you think LSU and Tennessee are going to do offensively? Like, what do you think Auburn is going to do offensively?
I'm going to ask.
Bama's going to have to score 45 points a game in conference to win the rest of their games. They're just going to be in shootouts because their defense is not up to par. It's just not. It is a 2018-17 Big 12 team.
A month ago, I couldn't have asked this in a dream, so I'm going to ask you now. If Alabama in Colorado with their dynamic offense, or I should say with Shedeur and those receivers, if they played 10 times on a neutral site, do you think Colorado could win one game?
Oh, yeah. They would win 2, maybe 20%, maybe 3 times, because they don't get to the quarterback. And that's the other thing I didn't talk about. To beat Colorado, you got to just own the pass rush. Yeah, Sanders has to be on his back. And I'm sure they could get to Shedeur, but like we've seen Shedeur throw for 350, win the game, and get sacked 8 times. So like you've got to like. I'm not suggesting Colorado is better than Alabama. By the way, you said 10 times.
Yeah,
I think
twice.
No,
I know that.
That's a small number, right? Like this is 80-20 here, folks. But yes, like there is a scenario where Colorado could win a game 52-51 over Alabama.
Joel Klatt is with us. He joins us each week courtesy of MyBookie.
You led me into that. Now you're going to keep playing. You're going to play that clip.
No.
Well, hey, listen, if you ever wanted to sell Alabama fans on it, today would be the day you would sell them on Colorado winning too.
At least I went through the dissertation of the tape first, right? I'm not on here to just deliver hyperbole. That's not what I'm trying to do. This is, and guys, we have been saying this for 4 straight episodes here, have we not?
You have. Yes. But the natural question, and Klatt is presented by MyBookie.ag, code next round. When you sign on to double your deposit bonus, bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag. This is we're 5-6 weeks into the season now. Is any of that fixable in season, Klatt, or are you just living with it?
Fundamentals are always fixable. Always fixable.
So your hesitation tells me you don't think Alabama can, though. Why?
Well, it's been 4 straight weeks of it. So whatever you're seeing on film, you're either coaching or allowing. And if you're doing either of those things, then it's not going to get fixed. When it happens once, it's like, okay, they can fix that. When it happens multiple times, you're like, okay, like, are they correcting it? Like when the linebacker is not getting over the top. It's like, so for instance, okay, Vandy runs kind of a zone read with a motion back to kind of lead up for the quarterback. So not only do they have a back going to that side, but they also have the backside H back swinging over and the guard swinging over. So it's like they're creating so many extra hats on the plus side. And time again, that backside linebacker from the side of the pullers steps straight up into the what I would say is the opposite A or B gap, rather than scraping over the top with the pullers, because remember, they're creating extra gaps on the play side. So in order to be gap sound, that backer has to flow over the top. He has to. There's not enough players on the front side. It's just math. That's all defense is math. And so if he doesn't do it one time, it's like, okay. If he doesn't do it a second time, I'm like, man, that's interesting. And then when it happens all game long, I'm like, okay, they're not fixing this on the sideline either with iPads. That's where it blows my mind. I'm like, there are extra gaps on that side. And then everyone's like, why are is our defensive line not good enough? What's going on? There's just not enough players. On one of the runs, 2-minute timeout, there's 2 minutes to go. And they run a concept similar to what I'm talking and run it for 11 yards for a first down. And this is when Malachi goes off and I'm glad he's apologizing because his behavior was kind of gross. And he's better than that. He's such a better leader than that. But they have a free safety 18 yards back. And Vandy's creating extra gaps on that play side, which is the left side of the offense. And the backside linebacker doesn't scrape over the top. There was no way for Alabama to stop that run. There were not enough players on the play side. It takes kind of a superhuman effort from one of those players on the front side to have to shed his block and defend an extra gap, which is just difficult. And maybe you're thinking to yourself like, well, we should be able to do that. Okay, fair enough. But they didn't. And the safety's just sitting back there at 18 yards as if they're throwing. It's wild. Like, there is 2 minutes. You have to stop them. Do you really think that Diego Pavia is throwing the go route right now? And by the way, if he does, good. Please. And try to bat it away with your corner.
Did on 4th and 1.
The safety, the fact that the safety was that far back was mind-blowing to me in a 5-point game at 2 minutes when you have to have a stop and the backside linebackers not scraping over the top. Wild.
So
Big 12 team. It's a Big 12 team.
Let's go bigger picture, because Brown asked, can it turn around this season? I don't think the defense can turn around this season. But when you start to look at Kalen DeBoer, and the guy has won everywhere, I endorsed him. I think Kalen DeBoer is still a fantastic coach. Bad loss.
Sure.
But the fact of the matter, winning 14 games to play for national championship last year, 7 teams scored 30-plus on that Washington team. If you go back to the 2022 team that won 11 games in Kalen DeBoer's first go-around with a Power 5 team, 5 teams went 30-plus. With Kalen DeBoer's offense, with his philosophies, is this something that Alabama fans are going to have to get used to? Big picture, not just this year, but moving forward, it's going to be a different style of how you win.
I don't think that that's inaccurate. And I co-sign on everything that you just said about Kalen. And I've said that on this show several times. I think he's a wonderful coach, and he's had a ton of success everywhere he's been. The defense has not been a strong suit for him. And this is a team that will absolutely be in more of these games. No question. Minimum 2 more absolute shootouts. I mean, 2. Probably more like 4. Where I think that, guys, Bama's going to have to go, and I mentioned this marker prior. The marker for me with those OU teams was always 45. Like, that's what I felt like their offense needed to score in order to win some of those big games. And I think that's where Bama is at right now. I think that they're going to need to score 45 against Tennessee, LSU, maybe even Auburn, and maybe one other, because we would have never thought that Vandy was going to be that way. So it'll be interesting. And the blueprint is out there. That South Florida put a blueprint out there. Wisconsin, by the way, ran it well on the perimeter against them. Georgia in that second half just absolutely killed them down the field. And now they've been killed by the run. It's not one thing that keeps popping up. guys. We're seeing their pass defense be really poor. We're seeing their run defense be really poor. And then, by the way, they're also undisciplined, 114th in penalties. And that is also a consistency with what DeBoer has been in the past. If you look at his Washington team, they were one of the worst in penalties. And so it looks like it's continuing as well.
Well, a lot to absorb there from Klatt. It was an excellent breakdown, I'll give you that. And I think Alabama fans fear that you are 100% right in everything you just said here. And
I hope I'm not.
I think they fear you are, though, and I think most Alabama fans watching or listening are like, I think he's dead on, and that's the scary
67 points and 784 yards in the last 6 quarters of football.
That's alarming. That is not Alabama football. All right, you could see. Yeah.
Or maybe it is.
Maybe it is now. It hasn't been. You could see Klatt on Washington at Iowa, 11 o'clock Fox. Washington coming off that big win over Michigan.
Actually, we had a bit of a change-up. We're going to follow the pregame. We're going out to BYU.
Okay, so Arizona and BYU. Game. Yeah, okay, so you're doing
Gus
3
and I will call the second game on Fox that day because the kickoff show is going to go to BYU, so we're going to follow them out there.
Arizona at Brigham Young.
There you go.
Very interesting Big 12 game there.
Yeah, good call by you, man.
Yeah, I like that game. 3 o'clock on Fox. That's a great stadium. Love it. Love the way it looks on TV. So that'll be fun. Arizona BYU 3 o'clock Fox is where you'll see Klatt this weekend with Gus and Jenny.
Does that mean Arizona and/or Nevada is a swing state? Do we get some political ads?
Klatt taught us about that.
I know, because I was watching Fox and FS1. I was like,
I think Arizona was last time.
Yes, it was.
I was watching all my Fox games this past week, and I was like, man, local senators and House of Representative ads running.
November 2nd. I can tell you where we're going to be November 2nd. It's not official, but I know exactly where we're going to be.
You schooled us on that one.
Yeah,
no, I think you schooled us on that one. Didn't you tell us you've got Penn State and whoever they play?
Yeah.
Because it's some sort of swing. They know Pennsylvania's going to be a battleground. Yeah. You told us.
I'll be really surprised if we don't do Penn State, Ohio State.
Yeah, you told us that.
I would be shocked about that, too.
Well, it's a good game, though. You ought to be doing that game.
It's a great game, but we passed up the opportunity to flex and do a later time slot for this week's Oregon-Ohio State game.
Yeah, it's going to be a blowout anyway. You picked a better game. Ohio State, Penn State.
You think so? You think Ohio State blows them out?
I'm on the record right now. 1, you offended me by saying Alabama's a Big 12 school now. And 2, well,
hold on. I probably did offend you. But was it an offense born out of truth?
Yeah, I'm easily offended. Okay. But also, I'm going to call it right now. Ohio State, Penn State closer than Ohio State, Oregon.
I could get on board with that. Yeah. I could get on board.
Yeah.
I have not been impressed with Oregon. And Ohio State guys, like they owned Iowa at the line of scrimmage. Owned them. And game should have been, even more of a blowout. Ohio State. And here's the thing, everyone questions Will Howard, myself included. All he needs to do is be like Greg Krenzel. He doesn't even have to be special with everything they've got going on. And can we just watching Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith is like gorgeous. Ryan Williams catching that ball in the air and then just running through his landing on the sidelines. This guy is just, man.
It was ballet.
It just still blows my mind. He's supposed to be playing high school football right now. Like, what in the world is going on down there?
It's literally
high school football.
It's pretty good in this state. It's literally something every week with that kid, though. I mean, it is something every week with him.
It was ballet, man.
With both of them. Both of them, because Smith had the one-handed get off me, Moss in the end zone. It's like, I think those two might be, as true freshmen, the 2 best wide receivers in college football.
Isn't that going to be wild if they're the first team All-American wide receivers at the end of the year?
2 freshmen.
I mean, at minimum, neither of them will be lower than second team All-American. Minimum.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Because I think you would throw in like like maybe Travis Hunter, does something, although he's just going to kind of win all the other awards.
Trey Harris
maybe
has been pretty crazy.
Tedroa McMillan.
Yeah. At Arizona.
By the way, I know we didn't get into it because there's a lot to get into for Alabama. Missouri's fraudulent, guys. Like, that was the most overrated top 10 team maybe in history, other than Florida State.
And A&M's dangerous.
Hey, and you were
They're getting better.
Yeah,
they're getting better.
You were
By the way, Colin Klein is a damn good coach, guys.
Yeah.
And he was thrown under the bus after that Notre Dame game. But Mike Elko's like A&M. I would be absolutely buying stock in A&M for sure.
LT was in the summer. LT told us that A&M in Texas, A&M would be playing for a playoff spot that day.
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh, I don't
They've
know.
only got one loss, and they are getting better. Look at the schedule.
Look at the schedule, Klatt, before you completely
They're
going to
be favored in every game until the Texas game.
That tightly.
Go look at it.
But the problem is, here's the problem, though, is like that, because Notre Dame's schedule is just as bad, and they would be – so, like, that's going to be a hurdle. They have to have Notre Dame be in the playoff, and I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Speaking of fraudulent, USC. Fraudulent. And something's got to be done there. There's problems.
Although I think that they're 2-3 snaps of the football from being undefeated.
Probably.
That's fair.
You were doing that.
Like, I'm less worried about USC, Tennessee than I am like Missouri was just like, that wasn't even close. And by the way, Drinkowitz kicking the field goal with 8 seconds to go.
So absurd.
What are we doing?
That guy. But go watch. You're doing the Fox game. Go watch early in that game.
Michigan State did the same thing to backdoor cover, though, Friday night.
Luther Burden catches a touchdown pass, and it gets called back. And he goes and sits on the sideline and pouts for the next 2 plays. And his team had to have a first down. They were taking on water. And he's sitting over there pouting on the sidelines, and they've got a 3rd and 4, and he's not on the field.
Yep.
Missouri's got bigger issues than just what they're seeing on the field. That's inexcusable. If you're Luther Burden, you're the best player on the team. I got to have you out there on 3rd and 4. Are you healthy?
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's not. I totally agree. I completely agree with you. Everything that you're just saying right there. That speaks to a deeper issue.
Yep.
A chemistry issue within the team. And I think different than Malachi Moore. I honestly think like Malachi's, that's out of character for him. That's the emotions of the game. They're losing at Vanderbilt. He's in his mind, he's like, oh my gosh, this is devastating. But at that moment in that A&M game, I agree with you. That's crazy. Wide receivers, man.
It's Joel Klatt, Fox Sports. See him on the Arizona BYU game Saturday afternoon at 3:00 on Fox. Thank you, Klatt. Have a great week.
You got it. See you guys.
You know how silly you'd look throwing a football to nothing? You needed those wide receivers back in the day. Yeah.
Klatt brought to you by MyBookie.
Go look at the lineup of wide receivers I had my last year. Just Google his picture. Beautiful man. Beautiful man. Love him to death. But Dusty Sprague was from Holyoke, Colorado, and he was lined up opposite Devin Hester one day. And I was like,
wow. Yes. It's a mismatch.
Yeah. This ain't right. All right, boys.
See ya. Klatt presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round to double your initial deposit.